What's up, creepers and geekers? Chris, the Atari Creep. How's everyone doing today? I'm kind of regretting doing this as much as I want to talk about it. It's a subject a little near and dear to my heart, and we'll get to that here in a minute. First and foremost, spoilers everywhere. I don't know how to not do that. If you've not seen Monster, the Ed Gein story, stop watching this and go watch it. If you want to go in blind like me, even if you know the case very well, as I did. If you like surprises, this is your fucking huckleberry. Okay, I'm an artist. I'm a fucking artist. Give me a tuba, I'll get something out of it for you. What movie is that from? I believe all art should exist, whether it offends the fuck out of me or not. Whether I agree with its tastefulness or not. Whether it's pretty or not. Whether it's ugly, confronting, art deserves to exist in any form, so long as, of course, no one had to be hurt for it. Lamp, anybody? You know, and there are times that the human form in its mort state becomes inspiration to even a guy like me. I'd go down there and light that up, but there's no batteries in it, so I'm not going to go look for batteries. So as you can see, Eddie and I we've got a few things in common. Although I don't think I've ever had to dig up a girlfriend. I'll show you girlfriend versus. Here you go. There. Alright, here we go. Oh, you don't have to really watch this, you know that, right? Hit the button! What the fuck? I'll pick a stage. Are you serious? Hello? Hello, look alive. The other thing I suppose I should let you know is I'm not an extreme kind of either this or that. I'm not, it has to be awesome or it has to. I'm okay with things being okay. I'm okay with things kind of sucking. And I'm okay with things being above average, you know? Anyone who might stumble upon this channel, that's not me. That's not me. I can look at things through a nice even keel and then come across with my own interpretation of what I just watched. And that's literally what this is going to be. Please never think I'm trying to tell you how to think. I experienced it. This is how I am going to relate how my experience was. And whether they mirror yours or not, neither here nor there. But I'm curious as to if you agree with any of this or if you disagree at all. The last point I think I want to hammer in is I'm not really a true crime serial killer kind of cat. Yes, it was weaved into my culture growing up. I was into the heavy metal. I was into the horror, especially the hardcore gory stuff. More red, the better. Love it to this day. But aside from, of course, the of watching the documentaries or reading about it or maybe stumbling upon a naughty picture from the crime scenes here and there out of morbid curiosity, I'd rather just stick with the Jason Voorhees of the world, you know? I'm good with fictitious horror. And one of the lines you do tend to walk when producing art of this nature is the balance between fiction and reality and trying to understand that there are real lives attached to this kind of a tragic situation. But more on that here in a little bit. What I'm trying to say is that I didn't really get into the whole serial killer thing. And I came across this guy named Ed Gein, and I heard about him through Slayer's Dead Skin Mask and a few other things, and reading Fangoria magazine, and I kept seeing this little name, Ed Gein, but I didn't see the name, you know, out there like your Ted Bundys and your Pogo the Clowns and all those, you know, the John Wayne Gacy's of the world. But his case fascinated me. His case fascinated me enough to really go deep dive into it, to the point where I had so much information I just said, fuck it, this is going to be my senior paper. But there was just something about this case. And maybe it was the artistic aspect of things. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, he used human parts. But it was beautiful in a morbid kind of way. Now, Ed Gein doesn't fall under a serial killer status, if you ask me. Sure, he's responsible for 2 indefinite. His brother is a speculation. And I know there are other aspects, and they do allude to a little bit of it on the program. There was a babysitter. There was a couple of lost hunters in the woods that stumbled upon the wrong property one day. But none of this has ever been confirmed. What I'm trying to say is that the Ed Gein story is something I know a lot about. It's near and dear to my heart for some reason. For some reason. And maybe it's because he doesn't fall under a traditional serial killer. Maybe it's where he was in the time period. You need to put yourself back in late 50s farmland. Tiny little town. Everyone knows everything about everybody. And then something like this happens in the community. And I can't even imagine the confusion and the fear and the uneasiness that town had looming over it for the next however long. And to this day, people still show up there. But like the distaste and okay levels are doing this now, so the distaste is down here and all that. But that's when we get to this piece of entertainment that we're going to discuss, because there is that fine line, isn't there, between artistic license, reality, and dealing with the fact that you have actual human being, actual lives that were involved in all this tragedy. It's just all fascinating to me. But then we come to Monster, the Ed Gein story. Oh boy. Let me give you my overall thoughts, okay? I have 2 split camps on this. As a work of fact, no, this is garbage. It's absolute garbage. 10, 20, 30 years ago, Chris would have fucking loved this. I wrote down it's a coke-fueled Stephen King novel. If you separate the reality from the fiction, it's an enjoyable, unhinged trip through psychosis and deviant sexual behavior. But as a biography or some kind of a factoid trying to tell you a story about an actual thing that happened, it's absolute garbage, and it's disgusting, and it's disrespect. As a thing, it is very well crafted. We'll start with the positive. Very well crafted. Direction, superb. Cinematography and set design and the overall look, perfect. Sound design. We'll talk about some of the things that the movie does within its own reality, interweaving Ed Gein's story with the films that he inspired in one way or another, and how they use little stings of music and sounds that you would recognize from things within pop culture that he inspired, woven into his own soundtrack, and how sometimes they on screen weave the 2 realities together. The acting was great. I think everyone did an amazing job. Everybody. As far as the impersonation of Eddie, fine. I think the guy looked the part. He didn't have as big of a bulbous. If you look at some pictures of Eddie, he's got that extra sized cranium. I don't even think he was from this planet. There are sound clips out there of Ed speaking. There are interviews, especially now that this is out there and gaining popularity, whether for positive or negative. It doesn't matter. People are going to start making fucking money, and they don't give a shit why. That they're going through their old reel-to-reel magnetic tape interview. I think I interviewed that guy once. And they're trying to enhance it so they can get their 45 cents of the algorithm's current events. Continuing with the positives though, the practical gore effects, the viscera, all of that was top. I'm talking Tom Savini Day of the Dead peak era level. The big Tom Savini thing is to use the real person as much as possible. And I know there are times when there's a corpse on a table about ready to be played with, that it probably is a human, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's a replication of them. I couldn't really see, aside from, surrounding areas and maybe removing a few things here and there, adding things into the scene. I didn't see too much of the old computer, Vaseline on the lens from the computers. Very well crafted all the way around. Everything about this production was very well done. Now we get to the story. I have to separate the enjoyable, unhinged story part of it and go into the reality, because this is where I start having a lot of problems. And I will start with my biggest one. The murder of Bernice Worden, the lady who had the general/hardware store. Instead of it being what it probably was, Ed seeing an opportunity, taking the opportunity, and it not working out to his favor, they turned it into a weird love story / love triangle that, before the murder takes place, has a scene on a couch of some elderly lady going, "Eddie! Go, Eddie! Do it, Eddie!" In fact, me and my buddy Mike have been laughing about it so much, I keep taking the soundbite and sending it to him through WhatsApp of this chick. Oh, Eddie. And it's getting to a point where, like, my girlfriend heard us talking about it. And I don't know why she's connecting the two, but because she's a mom, every now and again when she sneezes, she has a little piddle, We're having babies, kind of fucks up down there a little bit. And I don't know why, but every time she does it now, she goes, "Oh, Eddie." Maybe because somebody in the show said something about "you're making me wet." I don't know. But "oh, Eddie" has become kind of a thing around the house. The story of Bernice Worden, very disgusting and very unrespectful to the family. If I was a grandkid of that woman, I think, I would probably be her grandchild. I would be so fucking furious. But again, going back to my first point, it deserves to exist, and I'm not trying to say it shouldn't. But there are realities that you do have to take into account. And though I did enjoy it, again, separating the fact that this was supposed to be a victim of Ed, it was disgustingly handled, and I have to say that I could have done without it entirely. Now, it was fascinating to see them bringing Adeline in. You'll see who she is if you watch the program. She wasn't as involved in Eddie's life as this work of fiction based off of reality. How about we'll do that? We'll treat it like it's just another Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I suppose if you look at it that way, it's fantastic. I was surprised that they even introduced her into it. And I alluded to a triangle of love, I believe, and she is that other point in the triangle. Eddie being the peak, her being over here, Bernice Worden being over here, and madness following somewhere in the fucking middle. They made her out to be a sympathetic to Eddie's hobbies, if you will. He keeps calling them his hobbies. And that she was a romantic interest, which I believe was true. But if I recall correctly, again, going back to years ago when I did all this research, she was an acquaintance of his that kind of had a pseudo-romantic relationship with them that lasted about 5 to 7, 8 months. And it was mostly just going to a movie or having, what we would say, let's go have a cup of coffee, that kind of a thing. As far as any intimate relationship, I can't recall her ever saying anything. I do remember reading somewhere two very specific interviews with her. Because you got to remember, when this happened, the town was flooded, and anyone who had any connection. What I'm thinking happened was, with the first interview, they took everything to the nth degree. Now, you can say whatever you want, you can spin it as long as there's some truth to it, right? She got interviewed again, and she's like, whoa, no, like quick. And she disappeared from the spotlight, never to be seen again. I mean, from all reports, she went on to have a decent life. She still lived in the same state. She got married, maybe had a couple of kids. I do remember hearing that she had been married. But this isn't somebody who wanted to be in the spotlight and say, Eddie was the love of my life. And when they heard at another interview that these things were being written, she tried to right away. Now, the portrayal of Eddie himself, I don't know if I take issue with it or not. All right, so at the end of the day, Eddie is a sympathetic character. In real life. I mean, mental illness, undiagnosed, isolation, overbearing, zealot mom. I mean, all of these factors, small town, no medical, nothing. Dude didn't have a chance. He didn't have a fucking chance in life. And though his acts were very horrific and reprehensible and evil, the things this man did was just outright evil. I kind of, on a Jason Voorhees level, kind of feel bad for him. Because at the end of the day, he was a victim too. Does that justify what they do? No, of course it doesn't. People go through a lot of really horrific things in their lives, and they don't go out digging up corpses and decorating their homes with them, and then taking women home that weren't put in the cemetery yet, and then making them in the cemetery. And so don't try to spin that me saying that I sympathize with his actions, because his actions are absolutely unacceptable. Just because you can understand how someone feels does not make their behavior justified or acceptable, period. And that goes for anything. But this Netflix fucking series took that again to the nth degree. They literally spent the entire 8 episodes trying to get you to feel for this guy. The entire time you feel like you're on the fun adventures of feeble-minded Eddie and his neighborhood exploits, you know? And I mean, they even have like a dance party and shit for him when he dies, and his mom's waiting for him with, oh, Eddie, you made me so proud, and everybody's sympathy towards this dude, and they even gave him an air, and maybe it was the actor who did it, not so much the direction, but they gave him this air of like think about Forrest Gump. If Forrest Gump didn't do good things in the world, it was literally Forrest Gump's evil twin, the Jekyll to the Hyde, the yin to the yang, the ding to the dong, you know? That's a really great analogy. It's an evil, the way they portray him is an evil Forrest Gump. And I'm going to just leave it at that. Mama said life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what grave you're going to get them from. And of course, no good long series about Ed Gein can't go without talking about what Ed has influenced in pop culture. Primarily, we're talking about in film, Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, and, a couple of little things here and there. And the one thing I really did enjoy was them trying to weave, again, a lot of weaving going on in this, is how they try to literally weave the realities and the film reality together. Like, almost like in Ed's mind, he's seeing what was put on celluloid. Even though he's never seen Psycho. Well, I can't say he's never seen Psycho. But what he did came before Psycho, you know what I mean? So he couldn't have seen the shower scene and then been influenced by it, is what I'm fucking trying to tell you. I did like what they were trying to do with that. But my biggest problem is that first 4 episodes were so unglued and unhinged all over the place in its tone. You go from Eddie, you go to the movie Psycho. And you go from the movie Psycho to the lives of Anthony Perkins and Alfred Hitchcock. Weaved in with Eddie Gein in there somewhere, while Eddie is doing what happened on the film with people in his real life. And I respect what they were trying to do there. And they did the same thing with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, they literally had Ed Gein out there with the fucking chainsaw in the middle of the road doing this nonsense. I love the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre as a piece of film. It's a masterpiece of art. But I don't want to see a stupid version of Eddie Gein out there. Again, I know what they were doing. I know what they were trying to do. It just did not execute well at all with me. It just was stupid. It was fucking ridiculous. Then you get into, of course, the Buffalo Bill, the tucking of the ding dong, you know. It's like, I'd fuck me so hard. I don't think they did that well. And then you get to the 4th episode where he's on the couch with fucking Bernice Warden bending her over, and she's like, oh, Eddie, oh. And then you finally move to a point where you think you're starting to get a grasp on things. And this is where I thought the series, right after the 4th episode, this is where I thought the series was actually trying to go, and I was finally on board. Because honestly, up to this point, I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? No, I'm serious. It was that fucking confusing at times. It was that confusing at times. Just shit everywhere. All over the place. But those first 3 episodes in particular just throw so much madness at you. And then the 4th one comes around and does its thing. And then eventually Eddie gets caught and ends up in the hospital. And now I'm saying to myself, okay, they're starting to talk about schizophrenia. Because you got to remember, schizophrenia and all those ideas were new back then. Even taboo, if you will. And they even pepper in a little bit of how the mental health system got fucked up over the years. That's a subject I'd like to tackle on a channel all by itself. But regardless, Eddie's in the hospital. The doctors explain to him in a very nice, beautiful way what schizophrenia is. And how it, like a broken mirror. I think he used a mirror. It's like dropping a mirror. You can still see pieces of stuff, but it's like multiple of them sometimes. And it's distorted view, and you don't know if reality and fantasy. Well, you can't distinguish between the two, because you could be almost like, what was that, augmented reality that the DS had? And you can do it with your phone now, I suppose. Where they will input things into your literal reality in real time, digitally. Think of that in the mind. And now I'm thinking, okay, so these last handful of episodes were completely unhinged. We don't know what was supposed to be real and what wasn't. So was this all in his mind? Was that all in his head? Was all of this in his head? And of course it probably was, according to the story. Because there's no fucking way any of that really happened. But nope. They give him the little pill. He's like, oh good, I'm gonna get better now. And then we go into a Ted Bundy story showing him going back to the corpses and literally watching his butt. A lot of butts jiggling into corpses, you know what I mean? Lots of that. I'm telling you, there's a lot of new kinks people are going to be coming up with this. There's going to be a lot of pause and toss for some very exclusive individuals. I was thinking about that the whole time. This is like porn for the weird, you know, for the people who are too smart to go out there and do these things. Now we got a realistic portrayal of it. Get the fuck out of here. But yeah, I mean, it goes to talk about other serial killers, and I'm like, okay, why? Why are we doing this? And then it all just comes down to talking about jerking off in the shoes, showing off like people that we all, hey, I know that, you know, Red Letter Media does that about Star Wars. I clapped because I know what that is. It turned into that. But then it turned into Eddie being a hero. He got the people caught. He got Ted Bundy caught. I think it was Ted Bundy that they turned him into a fucking hero. And then, like, when he dies, he goes down this hallway and fucking Charlie Manson gives him a high five. I'm telling you, this fucking thing, if you get rid of the fact that these were real people It's an amazing nightmare, acid trip, psychopathic fucking madness study of the brain and grim life, you know, fantasy. Soccer mom fantasies. Done extremely disrespectfully. He got a high five from fucking Charlie Manson on his way to the light. But regardless, the way they portrayed him, I think was entertaining. But again, I think it was disgustingly disrespectful to the real life tragedy that was going on. Again, remove the reality from it and just say that it was inspired by true events. Like, I don't remember if the beginning it said or not. I'll have to look back and see if that happened. But so even though we've discussed it quite a bit, and I've already kind of given you my initial thoughts on it, overall, I was uncomfortable watching it. I can't tell you how many times I thought we were about to make a point, but then it just completely goes off the fucking rails again. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I might watch it one more time just to see, did I miss something? Was this something that I'm not seeing here? Or did I genuinely expect to go into this? Because I did see the Dahmer one, and I know what I was getting into. I didn't watch the Menendez brothers ones. I don't give a shit about that case. But the Dahmer cases, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, who the fuck does shit like that, right? But the Eddie Gein one's a little more close to my heart as far as everything we discussed earlier in the video. And if you made it this far, I'm just going to say, yeah. If you can handle a lot of shit that's just like disgusting and morbid and true macabre, then I say enjoy it, watch it. I know the soccer mom crowd's going to love it. They're all going to be, oh my God, Eddie was so hot when his butt cheeks were pushing into that dead lady. Fucking chicks are weird, man. Every fucking day I've learned something new about fucking chicks that just makes me go, why? Because boobies, that's why, Chris. Guys, I want to know what you think. I want to know what you think about Monster, the Eddie Gein story. I overall enjoyed it, but I also thought it was a disgusting, disrespectful piece of shit. And that's the best way I can describe it. Thank you always so much for watching. I hope you made it this far, because I did have a lot to say. And it does mean a lot to me that you do. So let me know in the comments if you did make it all the way down here, please. Subscribe, don't subscribe, be part of the conversation. Just don't be a dickhead. That's all I ask. Until next time, guys, wherever in the world you are, I hope you're doing well. Unlike Eddie Boy there. And anyone involved with them. Until next time, take care, keep it real, and bye-bye. Spooky season is upon us. I'm fucking happy, and I'm excited. I'm excited. I love it. You know, you're making me look like an asshole. At least you could have done was fucking tried.